Hey guys, welcome to the Bird Brain Podcast, where the goal is to rise above it all, stay elevated, and create that infinity. Up your you. I'm your host, Isaiah Frizzell, and today we're going to talk about the emotional cruise control. I think we're all guilty of it, and to the point we don't even realize we're doing it, and how that can be so detrimental to just how you feel and how you operate in your day-to-day and even in your relationships. So, stay tuned. So, hey guys, thank you for joining. If you're just tuning in, this is the Bird Brain Podcast. I'm your host, Isaiah, and today's topic is going to be the emotional cruise control. Recently, the stars, the moon, all the rocks, all the dust, everything was crazy. All the planets were in one line finally, and it just had everybody off. Although some of y'all act up all year round, but that's none of my that is truly none of my business. But if things have felt off for you recently, blame it on Mercury. That's what everybody else has been doing. Just blame it on Mercury. But in all honesty, I did find myself recently in a weird funk, a very kind of ambiguous place. And typically what I do is I'm kind of hard-headed, and a lot of times I find myself just always muscling through things and, just saying I'll work through it. And with this particular, occurrence, there was so much else going on and so many other, practical things that I had to take care of, whether it be work or something else, that I didn't really have time to check in and truly see what was actually going on with me. And we all do it, and it's I don't know. I think it's more of a societal thing. It's more socially acceptable to appear stoic and, everything is good and everything is love and light. And the truth is how can you honestly be a person of love and light if you're walking around with a bunch of baggage you're not even acknowledging, but it's attached to you everywhere you go? For me, I'm good is something I say probably more than anything else. And if you know me, you've probably heard me say I'm good a lot. And it's not good. It's not okay. Always saying I'm fine or I'm good or things are cool, puts this wall in between you and another person that may be asking you that question. But it also puts a wall between you and you, you actually checking in and acknowledging that something's not okay. And instead, we throw things in a back seat and we don't deal with them. And the funny thing about that is all right, so whatever you don't decide to deal with is going to come up and is going to show up in your life as something else, whether it be physical pain or just constantly, feeling off, or those certain feelings trickling into other situations to the point where you're being affected by things that don't even make sense, but it's starting to affect your daily life and it has nothing to do with the other. Fortunately, my friends and I, we've taken on this habit of saying, how's your heart? Instead of asking someone how they're doing, ask, how's your heart? Just because that forces you to be a little bit more honest, and it forces you to think about your response instead of just saying, I'm good. The two don't make sense. If I ask you, how's your heart? And you're like, I'm good. Yeah. It eliminates the potential for there to be that automatic reply, that emotional cruise control. Robots are being built in our society daily. I just saw that they have these robot dogs that can open doors. I'm like, you know what? We don't need any more robots. And, if we have robots, we don't need humans acting like them. We don't need to align with that mode of operation. We're not binary. We're compiled of so many other things, and emotions being one of those many things. So, society has definitely played up this whole ideal of the only emotion you're allowed to have is I'm fine, and a smile on your face. And as we see in society, success and smiles, those things have a really good way of covering up wounded people. And it's more eye-opening than it is anything else, because you start to realize that a lot of the things that we put precedence on, that we put importance into, that we place heavy emphasis on, are not really healing those voids, or not really filling those voids either. If anything, it's just a cover-up. It's just one more thing we have to carry around to make it seem like everything's okay. I can honestly go on about this thing for days, but for me, writing was a thing. Funny, I used to write a lot, but I didn't realize what I was doing with it until I started to pay attention to what I was writing. And, the great thing about writing, and I'll even talk to my friends sometimes about just writing things out. The great thing about it is not a forced conversation, is no time limit on writing. And when you're writing about what you're feeling, it forces you to be a little bit more honest with what's going on. It forces you to be a little bit more vulnerable with what it is that you're feeling or thinking at the time. And writing is not for everybody, It's just, for me personally, for me, it's just another channel to truly be honest with whatever it is I'm dealing with at the moment, whatever, I have going on in my head, whatever I haven't been necessarily able to articulate. Otherwise, when I start writing, things kind of start to line up. And another thing that I've started doing when I start to get in these funks, like a couple of weeks ago, I was walking down the street one night, and, my chest felt kind of heavy. My stomach felt a little weird. And I'm like, dude, what's up? What's wrong? I've started doing that when I get to that point where I feel off and I can't necessarily pinpoint what it is that's bothering me. Just like I'd ask one of my friends or, a family member or somebody I care about, what's wrong? I ask myself the same way. And you'd be surprised, when I ask myself what's wrong, it's almost like my insides, they put on their little reading glasses and they just start shuffling through a bunch of folders, a bunch of things that I've stored, that I've put away and, just kind of filed under later or filed under never. And, they start plucking through those folders, and I kind of start playing back either my day or my week, or even sometimes my month. I start playing it back like a movie almost, going and rewind. And then once I find that very thing that makes my chest feel a little weird and makes my stomach feel off, that's when I am able to pinpoint what exactly is going on in my life that has me feeling off. What has me feeling, just in a fog, just in this weird space, this weird fog when I can't pinpoint anything, but I feel a lot. I feel so much. When it happened a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't necessarily feeling like my needs were met, and it was in different exchanges and different occurrences where I felt as though I put more into a situation than what I was getting back from the other person or from the other, obligation, whatever the case may be. But I just felt as though that, one, I wasn't being acknowledged, two, I wasn't being appreciated, and three, most of all, I wasn't being acknowledged, in any way, shape, or form. I was not being acknowledged. And it affected me, and I think a lot of us, we go through our days where we may feel as if we were slighted or mistreated. and we just say, you know what, it's all good, and we keep it moving. But what that it's all good does is that, for one, it gives permission for those feelings to kind of build up and, infiltrate other aspects of your life, because you're not addressing it in the vein that it's truly affected. It does that, but it just leaves you feeling very confused and empty and heavy all at once, just very void. I make it a little more of a point to treat myself like I would treat someone else. Treat people how you want to be treated, but also treat yourself the same way. It's that simple. You should always count yourself in that number when you come to the idea that I want to treat people well. Well, you're people, and honestly, a lot of us are just, we're kids that had to grow up, so that all just kind of concludes to the fact that we all want to be acknowledged. We all want to be recognized, and we all want our feelings to be taken care of. I don't care who you are. And on that, don't trust advice about how to deal with your emotions from someone who lacks a lot of experience when it comes to dealing with their emotions. Again, society puts this whole thing up of being impenetrable. And I can tell you the strongest people I know are some of the most vulnerable people I know. Not in the sense that they're, just crying their eyes out all the time or things like that. But no, they're vulnerable people. They're very tender people. And I consider them some of the strongest people, because it takes a special kind of person who's been broken, who's been chipped away at, to smile, and those are the people you look to, because if you're able to smile and you've been through so many things, that means you had to put your pieces back together and you had to learn to grow again. That's where you look to for guidance as far as like how to deal with things, how to truly accept that you're human and that you have feelings, and I think there's this misconception between, being a pessimist and just honestly saying sometimes, what, I'm not okay, or, I don't feel good, today was not a good day, or this situation hurt me. We don't, allow ourselves to do that, because we fear that by saying that it's, perceived as complaining or being weak or being soft, or, whatever adjective or negative connotation comes with you being honest about how you feel in a certain situation or certain moment. And honestly, do it for yourself, do it for yourself, because if you think that someone else should be responsible for recognizing your feelings before you are responsible for recognizing your own feelings, then that's a big problem. We can't rely on it external to check in on us all the time. Sometimes we got to do it for ourselves, and we have to do it right. That's a big one for me. And it's something that I honestly still work on from day to day, because the buddy that I was talking to, my buddy, we had a conversation, and, on the flip side, he was honest with me. At first, we were talking and everything seemed cool. Then he was honest. He was like, you know what? I'm not okay. This is what's bothering me. And I appreciated that more than anything, just because it was a moment that he was able to be real, able to really talk about what was going on with him. And, he knew it was a safe space. With me, it's... if you're my buddy, I want you to be okay. If you're my family, I want you to be okay. And the people who truly care about you, it's so true. The people who truly care about you and your feelings and are in a healthy way wanting to take care of you, they're going to hear you out no matter what. And it's important that we take care of each other in that way, just because, again, Society has shown us time and time again what can happen when you're not being taken care of, your feelings, when your feelings are not being taken care of, when you're not being acknowledged by yourself, when you're not acknowledging yourself and your feelings, the things that can happen. That's obviously on a surface level, and I don't want to get too deep into the specifics, but in all, we walk around in this world sometimes just not acknowledging the things that we were given by birth, and that's honesty and feelings. And when we stop using those feelings, when we stop relying on those cues to help us get through life, we become disconnected, we become voided, and everything around us starts to not work properly. So all this is to say, find better ways to take care of yourself, and find a moment when you start to feel as if things are not going right and you can't necessarily pinpoint what it is that you're feeling. Sit still for a moment, and if you can't sit still, mentally sit still and just ask yourself, hey, what's wrong? Or what's up? Or what's good? What's up, sis? What's up, bro? Hey, man, are you okay? Hey, girl, are you all right? What's wrong? Talk to me. And allow your mind to really be that child and just be honest about what's been going on. Allow your heart to do the same thing. And just let that conversation happen within yourself so you can figure it out, so you can feel better. Yeah. Self-care in closing. I hope you guys have an amazing day, have an amazing week. Again, if you're finishing the day, I hope the day was okay. And if it wasn't, I hope you take a moment to ask yourself, hey, what's wrong? Yes, thank you for tuning in, of course, and thank you for those who have subscribed and have been listening to these episodes and listening to the show. And if you haven't subscribed already, go for it. It'll be one of the best choices you make in life, I promise. All right, guys, take flight.